My name is Lena Maris, and I was 22 the night I realized I'd become my family's walking ATM. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at my cracked laptop screen. The fan in the old ceiling fixture buzzed like it was about to give up. In the hallway, my niece was screaming because someone took her tablet, and my mom was pretending not to hear it while some game show blared from the living room. My eyes burned from a 10-hour day. Classes, then my shift at the office, then a bug I'd been chasing in a client's code. I'd just dropped my keys on the desk, kicked off one shoe, when my bedroom door opened without a knock. My mom stepped in with that fake sweet tone she puts on like lipstick when she wants something. "Lena," she said, leaning on the door frame, "since your sister and her family are staying here now, expenses are going up. We're going to need you to start paying a bit more for rent." She smiled when she said it, like she was offering me a chance to be generous instead of quietly stabbing me in the back. I just looked at her, not shocked, not even hurt. Just numb. Because this wasn't new. It was just the latest line in a script I never agreed to. Let me rewind a second. I'm Lena, 22, full-time college student, part-time junior software developer. I'm also building a little dream on the side, a startup idea around budgeting tools, something that might one day mean I'll never have to ask anyone for money again in my life. To keep costs down, I've been living at home, and I wasn't freeloading. Every month, like clockwork, I paid my parents $550 for rent and groceries. I did the math. If I had roommates near campus, I'd be paying about that anyway. At least this way, I told myself I'm helping my family. For a while, it kind of worked. I stayed in my lane. I went to class, went to work, paid my share, tried not to rock the boat. Then Chloe came back. Chloe is my older sister, 23, married, 2 kids, and somehow still the princess of the household. Official golden child, the one who, according to my parents, just needs a little support right now. Growing up, Chloe was chaos wrapped in charm. She'd be the one sneaking out, cutting class, wrecking my dad's car, and every time there was this chorus of excuses. She's just going through a phase. Teachers don't like strong personalities. Kids make mistakes. Me? I color-coded my notes, did my chores without being asked, and still got yelled at if I didn't take the trash out 30 seconds after it was full. A year ago, Chloe moved out with her husband and the kids. She and her husband took loans from both sets of parents to start a construction business. They bought a house, posted photos of the keys, and their new driveway like they'd made it. A month ago, Chloe came back. Business failed, house gone. She showed up with a duffel bag, a stroller, 2 overtired toddlers, and a mouth full of promises. "Just until things settle," she said. "We've got some big projects lined up. Once they pay out, we'll be back on our feet in no time." My parents drank it like holy water. "She's under a lot of pressure," Mom said. "She just needs support right now." "We're all in this together," Dad said. Except we weren't, because I was still paying rent. Chloe wasn't paying a cent. And yet somehow, I was the one my mom was asking for more. I stared at her in my doorway. "How much more?" I asked, my voice flat. "Oh, just a bit," she said, waving her hand like the number didn't matter. "Maybe 150 more? Groceries are expensive, Lena, and the kids go through so much. You're good with money. You'll be fine." There it was. You're good with money. Translation: you're the responsible one. We can squeeze you. My room, my one safe spot, had slowly turned into a shared hallway closet. Toys ended up under my desk. My monitor had sticky fingerprints on it more often than not. Every time I tried to close my door, someone needed something from my room. "Where's the charger?" "I'm just putting the baby down in your bed for a minute. Can we use your laptop for a cartoon?" Chloe's husband rarely picked up a dish. Chloe drifted through the house like she was a guest in a hotel someone else was paying for. One night I watched him dump a bowl in the sink on top of an already overflowing pile. I took a breath and said, "Hey, could you maybe rinse your dishes? I have to work in the morning." He shrugged. "We're all busy, Lena. Not everyone gets to just sit at a computer." Just sit at a computer. I brought it up to my mom, mentioned that I was the only one paying rent, that I couldn't focus with the kids screaming outside my door when I had deadlines. She hit me with the greatest hits. Family supports family. Your sister's under a lot of stress. You don't know what it's like raising kids. My dad chimed in that night at dinner. We're all in this together. No one's keeping score. I put my fork down. Then why am I the only one paying? Silence. Not because they didn't understand the question, but because they did. And it didn't matter. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about the money. It was about value. To them, Chloe was the investment. I was the insurance policy. No matter how much I gave, I'd never be her. I'd always be the fallback plan, the one they could push just a little bit more. Back in my bedroom, with Mom smiling like she hadn't just asked me to fund Chloe's reset button, something inside me went very, very still. "We're going to need you to pitch in a bit more," she repeated. I smiled back, not because I agreed, because I was done. "Okay," I said calmly. "Thanks for letting me know." Her smile flickered, confused by how easy I made it. "So you'll transfer it on the first?" "Sure," I said. She left satisfied. The door clicked shut, and I sat there in the dim light of my desk lamp, listening to my niece wail in the hallway and my dad laugh at the TV like nothing was wrong. Growing up, I learned that being easy was the only way to survive in our house. Not easy as in weak. Easy as in low maintenance. Don't rock the boat. Don't complain. Do your part and a little extra, and maybe you'll be left alone. Chloe didn't follow those rules, and somehow she was still the star of the show. I followed the script perfectly and still got handed the bill. I looked at my cracked laptop screen and opened a new tab. Rental listings, studio apartments, sublets. I don't know what I expected to feel. Panic, maybe? Guilt? But what I felt was relief. Like noticing a door in a room you thought was sealed shut. There it was. A one-bedroom sublet 25 minutes from campus. Not fancy, a bit old, but the rent was something I could make work, especially with my freelance gigs. It had a locking front door and no toddlers listed in the description. I started planning. I stopped volunteering for errands, stopped hopping up to fix every tiny crisis, stopped staying up late to finish chores that weren't mine just so the house wouldn't explode. At night, when everyone was asleep, I packed quietly, one box at a time. Clothes, notebooks, my external hard drive. I transferred my mail, set up utilities in my name, signed the lease on my phone during a lunch break, my hands shaking just a little. No big announcement, no dramatic speech, just logistics. On a Thursday afternoon, I carried the final box down the hall. My niece was sprawled on the floor, watching a cartoon on a tablet someone finally gave back to her. The house smelled like old coffee and microwaved leftovers. My mom caught me at the door. "Where are you going with all that?" she demanded, eyes narrowing. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain every detail of how long I'd been planning or how many nights I'd cried in my car instead of coming inside. "I'm moving out," I said simply. Her eyebrows shot up. "What? Why didn't you say anything?" I shifted the box in my arms. "You told me I was lucky to stay here," I said. I figured it was time to stop pushing my luck. For a split second, I thought I saw something in her face, regret maybe, or maybe it was just surprise that the easy child finally did the one difficult thing. She didn't apologize. She didn't ask if I had enough money, or where I was going, or if I needed help with the box. She just stood there, stunned, like a program that had crashed. I walked past her, down the steps, out to my car. I didn't look back at the house as I drove away. I just watched the road. The drive to the new place was quiet. No yelling from the back seat. No mental list of chores waiting for me. Just my music, low, and the sound of my own breathing. When I pulled into the tiny driveway and unlocked the door to my new apartment, my hands were trembling again. But this time it felt like adrenaline, not fear. The place was small. The paint was a little chipped near the baseboards. The fridge hummed loudly. But when I set the box down in the center of the empty living room, there was no TV blaring, no toddler shrieking, no footsteps stomping down the hall toward my closed door. Just silence. Real silence. I stood there, looking around at this imperfect little space that was finally, undeniably mine. No one could walk in without knocking. No one could raise my rent because my sister made bad choices. No one could tell me I was lucky to be allowed to pay their bills. For the first time in years, I felt something loosen in my chest. This wasn't a mansion. It wasn't the dream life I had on my vision board, but it was a starting line I had chosen. And I knew as I sank down onto the bare floor and let myself exhale that leaving wasn't the betrayal. Staying would have been. The first night in the apartment, I slept on a bare mattress with my hoodie as a pillow and a moving box as a nightstand. It was the best sleep I'd had in years. No doors banging, no kids screaming because someone ate the last snack, no muffled argument between my parents about bills they never showed me. Just the hum of the fridge and the occasional car passing outside. In the morning, sunlight cut across the floor in a clean line. I lay there for a minute, staring at it, feeling weirdly guilty for how light my chest felt. Then my brain did what it always does. It made a list. Finish homework. answer client emails, push a new build of the budgeting app, figure out where the nearest grocery store is. I showered without someone pounding on the door asking how long I'd be. Ate toast at my own pace. Opened my laptop at the little table I'd dragged next to the window and started working. No one barged in. No one asked for help finding socks. No one shouted from another room, "Lena, can you just—" The quiet was so loud it felt like a luxury item. At first, I expected the panic to hit, the part of me that had always believed I'd fall apart if I stepped outside my role, the fixer, the quiet helper, the one who kept everything running. But instead of panic, something else rolled in. Focus. With nobody pulling at me, my brain finally had space to breathe. I knocked out a week's worth of assignments in 2 days. I refactored some messy code on a freelance project I'd been dragging my feet on. I sketched out new features for the budgeting app I'd been building in the background. That app had started as a side project, just something I wished I'd had when I first started juggling classes, rent, and random family emergencies. A simple interface where you could plug in your income and expenses and see, in plain, unforgiving numbers, what you could really afford. I'd posted a basic version on a developer forum months ago. A few students had messaged me, thanking me for making it less scary. It hadn't felt like much at the time. Now, sitting in my own place, I realized something. If this grew, if I made it real, I'd never have to ask my parents for help again. I'd never have to pitch in more just to keep a roof over my head. I could build something that didn't depend on anyone else taking me seriously. I started pushing updates. Nights blurred into early mornings as I fixed bugs and answered feedback emails. I built a small landing page, set up a mailing list, started sharing simple budget tips under a fake name on social media. Days turned into weeks. And for a while, there was nothing from my family. No. Did you make it okay? No. What's your new address? Not even a passive-aggressive, "we hope you're happy." They just went quiet. It was the kind of silence that would have destroyed me a few years ago, back when I thought any attention, even negative, meant I mattered. Now it just confirmed what I already knew. They didn't miss me. They missed what I did. About 2 months after I moved out, I was eating leftover pasta at my desk, reviewing logs from a new batch of users who'd signed up for the app, when my phone lit up. "Mom." For a second, my stomach flipped the way it used to when she called my name from down the hall. I wiped my hands on a napkin and opened the message. "Hey, your sister's going through a lot. Think you could help us out a bit financially for a few months?" I stared at the screen waiting for more. "No, how are you? No, are you okay on your own?" Just straight to the transaction. My first reaction was a laugh that came out sharper than I meant it to. Of course, not "we miss you," not "we're proud of you for doing this on your own." Just, "can you pay us?" I didn't respond. I put the phone face down and went back to my laptop. My chest hummed with that familiar mix of anger and sadness, but it faded faster than it used to. 3 days later, another notification. "Dad this time. We're struggling a little with bills. If you have anything to spare, it would help." I let the message sit. The cursor blinked in the reply box while a part of me scrambled to do the math. If I cut back on eating out, I could send a couple hundred. If I take one more freelance project, maybe more. If I work weekends, I can... I stopped myself. Not because I didn't care that they were struggling, not because I enjoyed the thought of them worrying about money, but because I remembered. I remembered standing in that kitchen, asking why I was the only one paying rent, and watching them choose silence over fairness. I remembered my mom telling me I was lucky they let me stay, like my monthly transfers were a favor they were doing me. I remembered sitting on my bed, hearing Chloe complain in the living room about how stressful it was to live at home again, while her kids scattered food on the couch I'd bought. I locked my phone and tossed it onto the table. There's this idea people love to repeat: be the bigger person. What they never mention is how often being the bigger person translates to bleed yourself dry so no one can call you selfish. I had spent years being the bigger person in that house, covering for other people's mistakes, picking up slack no one acknowledged. Nobody had been the bigger person for me. A week later, something unexpected happened. One of the personal finance creators I followed online, someone with a big following, posted a video titled something like, "This simple student budget tool changed my life." I clicked out of curiosity. It was my app, my interface, my layout, my shoddy little logo in the corner. On screen, the creator walked through the features, praising how simple and straightforward it was. They tagged the website. My inbox exploded. People signed up for the newsletter. Download numbers shot up. My server crashed once. I sat there, hands over my mouth, trying to process the fact that strangers cared about something I built more than my own family ever had. I spent the next week answering emails from students who wanted advice, teachers who wanted to share the app with their classes, a nonprofit that asked if I'd ever considered building a version for low-income families. Somewhere between support tickets and feature requests, a thought slipped in. If my parents knew about this, if they saw what I was doing, would they be proud? Or just interested? A few days later, I got another message from my dad. We should talk. That was it, 3 words, no context. I sat back in my chair and stared at it. It didn't sound like a father reaching out to reconnect with his daughter. It sounded like a man who'd heard a rumor and wanted to confirm the numbers. I didn't reply. More messages trickled in, little drops of guilt dressed up as concern. From Mom, we miss you around here. From Dad, you've always been so good with money. Just a little help could make a big difference. They never said what they'd done, never acknowledged how they made me feel like a renter in my own childhood home, never admitted that they'd let me walk out with a single box and no questions. They just wanted access. One night, sitting on my cheap couch with my laptop balanced on my knees, I hovered over the reply box on Dad's message. I could send something, just a couple hundred. It wouldn't ruin me. I could make it back. It would ease my conscience, at least. And then, like a movie playing on the back wall of my brain, the memories came back in pieces. Chloe sprawled on the couch, scrolling her phone while I washed dishes after pulling a double shift. My mother's voice. Your sister is going through a lot. Don't make this harder on her. My father's shrug when I asked why Chloe didn't have to pay anything. You're good with money, Lena. You can handle it. I knew exactly what would happen if I sent money. It wouldn't be a one-time thing. It would be the open door. The silent agreement that I was still the safety net. That no matter how far I moved away, I could be yanked back into the old pattern whenever they needed cash. I closed the chat window, set my phone to Do Not Disturb, and opened my code editor instead. If I was going to give anything away, it was going to be time and energy invested into people who actually respected it. By the end of the month, I'd launched a community forum on the site and sent out the first real newsletter under my name. Not Lena, the responsible daughter. Not Lena, the one who always fixes things. Just Lena. I thought the messages from home might slow down when I didn't respond. They didn't. At least not at first. Mom called once and left a voicemail. Hi, sweetheart, she said, in that soft tone she used when she wanted me to agree to something. We're just really struggling right now. I know things have been tense, but maybe we can talk. Maybe you could come by for a weekend. No mention of rent, no mention of Chloe, but I could hear the script underneath the words. Come back, feel responsible, pick up the pieces again. I let the voicemail sit, unread, in my notification bar for days. Every time my thumb hovered over the play button, another part of me stepped in. The part that remembered loading groceries into the car I paid for while my parents thanked Chloe for helping with the kids. I didn't delete it. I just didn't answer it. Silence, for once, was mine to keep. The night I met Ethan, I wasn't looking for anyone. I wasn't even looking for conversation. I just wanted a quiet corner, a reliable Wi-Fi signal, and a cup of coffee strong enough to bully my brain into finishing a project. The cafe was one of those late-night student spots. Dim, soft music, warm light. I'd been hunched over my laptop for hours, debugging a feature for my budgeting app when someone tapped on my table. Sorry, a voice said. Is this seat taken? I looked up and saw him, tired eyes, laptop tucked under one arm, wearing a hoodie like he'd fought 3 deadlines and lost all of them. It's yours, I said without thinking. He sat down, opened his laptop, and plugged in noise-canceling headphones. For 20 minutes, he didn't look up, didn't talk, didn't interrupt. It was glorious. Then, during a power outage that made half the cafe groan in unison, he pulled off one side of his headphones and glanced at my screen. Is that version control for a budgeting app? I blinked. You recognized it? He shrugged. I'm a developer. We can smell our own. We talked, not small talk, real talk, about code, about student life, about balancing burnout and ambition, about how money stress makes people grow up faster than they should. I found myself telling him things I hadn't told anyone, not my parents, certainly not Chloe. He didn't interrupt, didn't offer unsolicited advice. He just listened, nodding, tapping his fingers lightly when something resonated. When the power came back, he said, I'm Ethan. Lena. He smiled. I've heard of your app. I froze. You have? It's been going around some developer groups. People like how simple it is. Something warm flickered in my chest. Not pride exactly, recognition. We ended up talking until closing. When we stepped outside, he walked with me to my car. "You built something people actually need," he said. "Keep going." I didn't realize until I was driving home that it was the first time in months, maybe years, that someone had encouraged me without wanting anything in return. The more time I spent with Ethan, the stranger it felt, in a good way. He asked questions without prying. He offered help without pushing. He noticed when I went quiet, but didn't rush in to fill the silence. We never had the conversation about what we were. It just happened. He started walking me home from the cafe. We swapped playlists. We cooked instant ramen in my tiny kitchen. One night he kissed me, and it felt like something unstuck in my chest. He wasn't loud. He wasn't chaotic. He didn't demand space. He respected mine. He was the opposite of everything I grew up with. But nothing in my life stays uncomplicated for long. One afternoon, I got a notification on Instagram, a message request, from Tessa Carmichael. At first, the name meant nothing. Then it clicked. Ethan's ex-girlfriend. They had dated for nearly 2 years, back when he was doing his first internship. He had mentioned her once, in passing. Something about different priorities. Her message was short. "Just heard about your budgeting thing. Congrats. Though, I hope you're not too busy for family. They're important." I stared at it. Was that a threat? Advice? Passive aggression dipped in honey? Before I could decide, another message appeared. "Families aren't perfect. You shouldn't abandon them over money. Just my opinion." There it was. The judgment I'd been bracing for, wrapped in false concern. I typed back 3 words, then deleted them. Then typed 2 more, deleted them too. Finally, I just locked my phone. Not my circus, not my monkey. Later that night, while we were having takeout on my couch, I asked Ethan casually, "Do you still talk to your ex?" He paused mid-bite. "Tessa? Huh, not really. Not since last year. Why?" "She messaged me," I said carefully. His face tightened. "What did she say?" "That family is important." Ethan rolled his eyes so hard it was a full emotional workout. "God, she said the same thing to me when I told her my parents were unhealthy for me." I blinked. "She judged you too?" "Constantly. She grew up in a tight, clingy family. She thinks everyone owes theirs unlimited loyalty." That flipped a switch in my brain. Tessa wasn't really talking to me. She was talking to the version of Ethan she used to control, someone she expected to fold under guilt. Now that he wasn't hers, she aimed the sermon at me instead. Ethan saw the look on my face and set his food down. "Lena, you don't owe your family anything they don't give you back." I swallowed. "Sometimes it feels like everyone else thinks I do." "Everyone else doesn't live your life," he said softly. The way he said it made something in me untangle. Meanwhile, the messages from my parents escalated. At first, polite requests, then hints, then emotional weight. "We're struggling. Your sister is so stressed. The kids need stability. It would mean a lot if you helped." Then came the classic. "We're all in this together." I didn't reply. Not because I enjoyed ignoring them, not because I wanted revenge. Because I remembered. I remembered Chloe's husband laughing when I begged him to rinse a bowl because I had class in the morning. I remembered Dad shrugging when I asked why Chloe didn't contribute. I remembered Mom telling me I was lucky to stay while I paid for half the household. And I remembered leaving the house with my last box while she stood there in stunned silence, not asking where I was going or if I'd be safe. Now suddenly they remembered I existed. Not the daughter. The resource. But nothing prepared me for the message that came next. It happened on a Wednesday afternoon. My app had just crossed 15,000 active users. I was celebrating with a cheap iced coffee when my phone buzzed. A voicemail from Mom. I didn't want to listen, but something in her tone, tight, panicked, made me tap play. "Lena, sweetheart, can you please call us back? We're about to lose the house. Your dad's hours got cut again. Chloe and the kids don't have anywhere else to go. We need you, please." I stood frozen in the middle of the sidewalk, coffee sweating in my hand. Lose the house. Kids. Nowhere to go. The words slammed into my chest like old alarms wired into my nerves. Once upon a time, that would have sent me running, turning my pockets inside out, sacrificing sleep, school, mental health, whatever it took. That was the role I'd been trained for. The fixer. The responsible one. The guilt sponge. But standing there, with the sunset reflecting off city windows and the cool cup melting in my hand, I realized something huge. They didn't want me. They wanted the version of me who had no boundaries. The version who lived in the back room and apologized for taking up space. The version who swept up their messes quietly so they could act like nothing was wrong. I wasn't her anymore, and I never would be again. I put my phone back in my bag, walked home, close my apartment door behind me. The silence greeted me like a friend. That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment with my back against the couch and my knees pulled to my chest. The voicemail kept replaying in my mind. Not the words, but the tone. The same tone my mother used whenever she needed something big. Sweet, trembling, soft enough to pass as love if you weren't paying attention. But I paid attention now. I'd learned to. I closed my eyes and let the memories come, even the ones I hated. I remembered sitting in the parking lot behind our old house in high school, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the glowing kitchen window. I was too tired to go inside because I knew the moment I opened the door, someone would need something. Dinner, homework help, a ride, a chore they forgot, something. I remembered sitting on my bed with code pulled up on my laptop while Chloe's kids pounded on my door every 5 minutes, and my mom told me to stop being dramatic when I asked for quiet. I remembered being told I was lucky to live there, lucky to pay rent, lucky to be the responsible one. My parents had turned necessity into charity, and I'd been too tired to argue. Now they were asking me to save the house. Their house. The one I helped pay for while being treated like a temporary tenant. I opened my phone again. The voicemail notification stared back at me like an open door, one I used to run through without hesitation. I deleted it, not out of anger, not out of spite, but because listening again wouldn't change anything. It would only reopen wounds I was finally letting scar.
Nay.
When Ethan came over later that evening, I was still on the floor. He toed off his shoes, took one look at my face, and sat beside me without asking a single question. I leaned into him. We sat like that for a long time, just breathing in sync, until I finally said, "They're losing the house." He nodded slowly, not surprised, not judgmental. "And now they want you to fix it," he said. My throat tightened. They don't even ask how I'm doing. They go straight to what they need. Ethan shifted so he could look at me properly. His voice stayed soft but grounded, the way it always did when he wanted me to really hear him. "Lena, if you help them now, nothing changes." "I know. You don't owe them your future just because they wasted theirs." "I know." He brushed his thumb along my knuckles. "So what do you want to do?" The question hit me like cold water. What do I want? I'd never been asked that. Not really. My family only asked what I could give. I took a breath. I want peace. Real peace. The kind I didn't even know existed until I moved here. "Then choose that," he said. "Choose peace." For a moment, I almost believed it was that simple. Then my phone buzzed. Another message. This time from Chloe. "Can you help us? Just a little? You're doing so well now. You've always been good with money. Always good with money. Always responsible. Always the one to fix it." It was like they had a script for me. And they had never noticed that I stopped acting in their play months ago. Before I could respond, not that I planned to, another notification popped up. A long paragraph. From Tessa, Ethan's ex. She wasn't even subtle. "Saw Chloe's post. Your family's going through a lot. I hope you're not the kind of person who abandons loved ones when they're struggling. It reflects badly. Ethan was raised better than that." My jaw clenched. Raised better? Raised how? By people who guilted him too? By a woman who believed being a doormat was a noble calling? Ethan leaned over, read the message, and muttered, "Okay, she's actually unhinged." I let out a tight laugh. "She thinks I'm heartless." "She doesn't know what she's talking about," he said. "And she doesn't know you." But Tessa had just echoed everything my family believed, quietly, politely, wrapped in that suffocating pressure I'd spent a lifetime obeying. It wasn't lost on me that she didn't reach out to Ethan. She reached out to me, the girlfriend, the woman. Women are always the ones expected to play therapist, fixer, soft cushion, financial parachute, all while smiling. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. This wasn't about family. It never was. It was about control. Mine. The messages from home continued. First gentle, then urgent, then sharp. "You've changed. Success went to your head. You think you're better than us? We raised you. You owe us." But the one that nearly made me laugh was from Chloe's husband. "Hey, if you're making good money now, mind helping out? We're all trying our best." Trying their best. No mention of the years I tried my best while they watched me drown in responsibilities they shrugged off. I didn't respond to any of them. Not even once. Not because I wanted to punish them, but because I knew how the script went. I'd send one transfer, they'd promise it was temporary, then another transfer, and then somehow the moment I hesitated, I'd be the villain again. I wasn't going back to that role. I'd rewritten myself. A week later, Ethan and I sat in my kitchen eating ramen. Cheap, simple, but peaceful. My palms were finally steady again. How do you feel? He asked. I thought about it. I searched for guilt, found none. I searched for fear, only found relief. I feel calm, I said, which scares me more than the idea of helping. He smiled softly. That's what boundaries feel like at the beginning. Boundaries, something no one in my family had ever respected. Now I was learning to build them myself, brick by brick, silence by silence. That night before bed, my phone lit up again. Mom, a long message, the longest yet. We're losing the house. Your father is at his breaking point. Chloe is devastated. The kids are scared. We don't know what to do. If you would just come home and talk to us, maybe we could work something out. We love you. There it was, the magic phrase. We love you. A phrase that never showed up when I was exhausted, overwhelmed, or scared. Only when they needed something. I read it twice, then slowly typed a reply. Not a paragraph, not an essay. Just 3 words. I can't help. Then I hit backspace until the screen was blank again. Not because the words were wrong, but because I realized I didn't owe them even that much. I locked my phone, turned off the lights, and went to bed in silence. Not the silence of being ignored, but the silence of choosing myself. Months passed, then a year. Life didn't magically become perfect, but it became mine. The apartment slowly filled with warmth. A thrifted bookshelf, a secondhand couch, mismatched mugs Ethan kept accidentally leaving behind. My budgeting platform grew steadily. Teachers wrote to me asking for classroom versions. A nonprofit asked if I'd speak to teen programs. Then a tech podcast reached out, wanting to interview me about financial literacy for first-gen students. I stood behind a podium once, hands shaking, voice trembling, and realized something unbelievable. People listened to me. Not because I was useful, not because they needed something, not because I was the quiet one who kept everything running, but because I had something to say. For the first time, I was valued for who I was, not what I could provide. Ethan and I grew closer, in that steady, natural way that didn't need labels or drama to feel real. He helped me lug home a secondhand desk. I helped him debug a database migration at 2 a.m. He made me laugh when my launch day crashed the server. I turned his leftover rice into something resembling edible food. Some nights, we talked about the future without even realizing we were doing it. A bigger apartment, a dog, trips when we could afford time off. A life built gently, not in desperation, not under pressure. And somewhere along the line, without us marking the exact day, he became my partner. The kind of partner who asked what I needed instead of assuming, who listened without turning my words into ammunition, who never made me feel like my past made me difficult. He wasn't saving me, he was standing with me. There's a difference. Hey. And then, when my life felt the most stable it had ever been, something familiar slipped into my inbox. An email. From Mom. No subject line. Just 3 short sentences. We're proud of you, Lena. We heard you're doing well. Maybe we can talk sometime. That used to be all I wanted. Not the money, not the free rent, not the approval. Just the recognition that I existed, that I tried, that I mattered. Now, the words felt empty, like they were printed on see-through paper. I hovered my mouse over the delete button, then hovered over reply, then back to delete. I didn't answer, not because I wanted to hurt her, not because I wanted her to chase me, but because I finally understood something that grew slowly in me over months of quiet mornings and peaceful nights. Her pride came now only because the world had noticed me, not because she had. If my app hadn't gone viral, if my name wasn't circulating in newsletters and forums, if Ethan hadn't built me up where they tore me down, would she still have sent this? Or would she still be telling me I was lucky to live in the back room of a house I was helping pay for? That email didn't touch me. It didn't repair anything. It didn't even make me angry. It just confirmed that I'd built a life so far away from them, they could only see the glow from a distance. And that was enough. Over time, calls and messages from extended relatives started trickling in. Cousins I barely spoke to, aunties who never bothered before, old neighbors who somehow dug up my email address. Hope you're doing well. Your parents talk about you all the time now. Heard you built something impressive. I didn't respond to any of them, not because I was unforgiving, but because they were silent when I needed them most, and loud only when my success made noise. You can't go quiet during someone's storms and show up only when the sun comes out. Life doesn't work like that. Not anymore. Not for me. One evening, Ethan and I were cooking dinner. Well, he was cooking, and I was standing nearby pretending to help, when he set down the spatula and asked, "Do you ever think about going back?" The question wasn't accusatory, just curious, careful, thoughtful, the way he always was with me. I didn't need to think long. No, I said, not because I hate them. I don't. I just outgrew that place. He nodded. Outgrew them? Maybe. Or maybe I outgrew who I had to be around them. He leaned a hip against the counter. Do you think they'll reach out again? Probably, I said. People always come knocking when the version of you in their head doesn't match who you are now. He laughed softly. And what will you do? I looked at the simmering pan, the tidy kitchen, the photos on the fridge, me and Ethan at a hiking trail, me speaking at a workshop, the sticky note that said, "You don't have to earn rest." And I felt something solid settle inside me. I'll protect my peace, I said, whatever that looks like. He kissed my temple. Good. There's a photo tucked away in one of my old notebooks. Chloe and me, at maybe ages 6 and 7. Matching dresses, matching smiles. Before the imbalance grew roots. Before responsibility carved itself into me. Sometimes I take the photo out, not because I miss her, not because it makes me sad, but because it reminds me of a version of myself who believed love was something you earned by being useful. I don't believe that anymore. Love, not obligation. Support, not leverage. Family, not extraction. I found a family in the life I built. Friends who saw me. A partner who respected me. A community who trusted my work. And for the first time ever, I was free. Not the freedom of running away, but the freedom of choosing where to stand. Years later, when the occasional holiday message shows up from a distant relative or a "hope you're well" from someone who once called me ungrateful, I read it with a strange kind of peace. Not bitterness, not triumph, just clarity. They were silent when I needed them most. So now I am silent back, not with cruelty, but with boundaries. I didn't burn the bridge. I didn't scream. I didn't return their hurt. I just kept walking. And one day, when I turned around, I couldn't even see the bridge anymore, because I'd built a home. And this time no one gets to take it from me.